Firstly, I'd really like to thank everyone for coming out. I guess we can tell by the size of the group that there's a lot of interest in CARD and I think in Arctic research in general. Recently, we have had some media interest, and we had an article in the paper during the weekend. And since then, a number of inquiries based on that article. Most people were looking for jobs. But either way, there's a lot of interest, and I guess that's evident by the group here today. So I will say thanks a lot for coming out. Another thing I noticed when I came in, there was a lot of friends of mine that I graduated engineering with, and the first thing they said was, Dave, I have a job today, and I don't want to sit here and listen to you speak all day, so keep it short. So I'll try to keep it to as short as I can, because I'm sure there's also a lot of questions. So without further ado, here we go. The first thing I will do, though, is I'll explain how I kind of structured the presentation. As I said, there's been a lot of questions about CARD, and a lot of the same themes keep coming up. So I've structured the presentation hoping to address some of those questions as we go. So the first thing I'll do is I'll review what CARD is and what it's hoping to achieve. Then I'll get into the research plan and onto opportunities, which I suspect is the reason for a lot of people showing up today, other than interest in the area. Then I'll touch on the building expansion. You might have heard that we're going to be expanding the Jack Clark building to house CARD. And then I'll touch on timelines, and then we should be able to have some time to get to some questions. Can everyone hear me okay? So firstly, just a brief overview of CARD. So in June of last year, or this year actually, Hibernia, Terra Nova, and RDC announced funding for the Center for Arctic Resource and Development and the expansion of the building. And the goal is basically for CARD, as you can see in the statement, is to bring together industry, academic, and technology partners to look at medium to long-term research, specifically focused on Arctic resource development. It's essentially what it is. So it's not just Arctic, it's specific to resource development in the Arctic. And again, what the main question I get every time I try to tell someone where I am now, where I'm working, the main question is, okay, I've heard of CARD generally, but what's it really all about? So what I've done is I've just kind of jotted down some of the key points that I like to try to get across when I'm just explaining it. It's fairly high level, but I think it should at least set the stage. So the plan is for CARD to be a leader in Arctic research. In the last few years, there's been a real push in the province to have Newfoundland and Labrador as this gateway to the Arctic. And we see this as an excellent opportunity for continuing that, and really for establishing our position. So we'd like this to be a hub for research, for people to come here from all around the world to do Arctic research. And the main thing we're doing is we're not looking at short, 6-month pieces of research. And a lot of times in the consulting world, you get someone with a problem. They give you a project, and it should be solved in 6 months, and then you're on to the next problem. That won't work for CARD, especially if we're tackling some of the major issues that we think we're going to have to take on. So we're looking at 10, 15, 20-year horizons, mainly because we know that in all reality, some resource development in the Arctic is probably 10, 15, 20 years away, and we'd like to be prepared for when that development happens, and we know that the challenges have been identified pretty much, but the solution is far from evident. So the main question is going to be, what technology are we going to need to support safe, responsible development in the Arctic? The program itself is going to be a dedicated program in Arctic technologies for resource development. And the final bullet on this slide is a very important one. A lot of the research expertise that we have, especially in Canada and elsewhere in the world, really started out in the in the first push for Arctic resource development in the 70s and 80s, and it's important for us to really find a way to capture that expertise and train up the next generation. Otherwise, we stand a chance of losing that. And part of the mandate for CARD is really to try to train up that next generation. And we see that as a very important piece of it. So the other question that a lot of people ask are, okay, so are you C-Corps? Where are you? What is the relationship between CARD and C-Corps? And it's fairly easy to explain. CARD is going to be a center that's located at C-Corps. C-Corps will provide the space and also administrative services and that kind of thing. But it'll be a standalone center within C-Corps, and it has a different set of goals. Again, we're looking at long-term research horizons, which may not necessarily be something that C-Corps is focused on. The other main point here is that there is an industry advisory committee, as Les mentioned, and this committee is comprised of members from the sponsoring research, the organizations that are sponsoring research, so the Terra Nova Project, the High Bernie Project, and we'll also have members nominated by C-Corps. And for me, this is very important, this industry advisory committee, because not only does it serve an oversight role, but for those of us that are doing research, it's always important for us to know if it's relevant. And this advisory committee will tell us, right off the bat, this is research that we think is important. We want you to focus on these areas. So it's a real litmus test of the research that you're doing. You're not hoping that it's relevant to industry. You've been told by industry that it is. Just a quick high-level overview of the structure of CARD. As you can see, it's a center unto itself, but it's housed at C-Corps, so the reporting for the executive director goes to the president, mostly on policy matters and that kind of thing. But the center is expected to operate on its own. The thing that you'll notice is that the Industry Advisory Committee plays a very important role here again. And I expect a very, very close relationship to the members of the Industry Advisory Committee. And I think it's critical that we have that relationship in order, again, for us to make sure that the research that we're taking on is not only relevant, but doable. So the bottom line, or the middle line there with the principal investigators, excuse me, you see that they're listed 1, 2, all the way to N. And that's really because we don't know how many we're going to need at this point, because we haven't identified our research projects. I'll get into it in the next couple of slides, how we will go about determining those research areas. But the principal investigators will lead each of the research areas, and there will be research staff that report to them, technicians, work-term students, and other graduate students. And there's also visiting experts, which I'll get into later. And they serve, again, the role of not only coming in as experts to do the research, but also training up and mentoring the next generation. So that was it for the overview. I hope I answered some questions. There will be time at the end to answer more specific questions that you may have, but there were some of the common themes that I was getting when people were asking me about CARD. So the research plan is the first thing we decided to do, and this was based on a recommendation of the Industry Advisory Committee, was to develop an Arctic development roadmap. So what this will consist of is a broad consultation with industry on, or not just industry, industry with expertise and interest in developing the Arctic. And so we will interview with these folks and try to identify what some of the key challenges are, some of the barriers are, and also some of the showstoppers for really what's stopping them from supporting any resource development.